This is Jason Smith at 92.9 FM ESPN. You're tuned into the ThePrezEx TV.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Presidential Executive. This your homie, JB the Exec, my homie brethren over here, El Presidente Rag. And before we go ahead and get started, man, go ahead and like this video right now. We're on all streaming podcast platforms. We're on just wherever you stream or do podcasts. I wasn't gonna do it. I thought about it, but I was like,
man, that's the thing.
It is, but you know what I'm saying?
List.
We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher.
Yes, sir. That's what we love.
Yep. Yeah, and of course, we got Crown Vic in the building.
Crown is in the building. JB, so I need you to tell everybody about our illustrious, distinguished guest that we got. Because normally, I do it, but
you do a wonderful job.
I try to do things that the young people will enjoy. But today,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I need you to channel your inner me.
Okay, let me try.
Channel your inner Rag and let people know who you got.
This guy here he's very popular in Memphis in the sports talk radio. Me personally, I listen a lot. I don't listen as often now because I'm actually more at home now. Because usually what I did when I was at work, you know what I'm saying, then I go out to lunch and then I turn on 92.9 when I'm in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? But I still, listen on the web or in the car when I'm in the car. But this dude right here, I believe he's a legend. I think his dad is deep in the game too. I'm not sure the whole history about that, but I believe his dad was like deep ingrained into Memphis sports back in the day. And he has, taken that lineage and, taking it to another level. And I believe, I'm not sure, maybe he is the first black host on 92.9. Maybe. I'm not sure. I think that may be true. Host of the Jason and John show on 92.9 Sports Talk ESPN. Welcome to the cave, Jason Smith.
Man, y'all know y'all need to applaud for that.
Man, I appreciate you gentlemen having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate you gentlemen having me.
No problem.
The fantastic introduction, brother.
No problem.
I think I was trying to think at 92.9, I think I am the first black full-time host.
Right.
They had tried some other guys, actually.
Right.
I was actually, second or third or fourth down the line after some things didn't work out. Let you know, too, that it ain't always, sometimes not always, you don't have to be first.
Right.
Sometimes it just shows you sometimes God's plan. That's always the way I've looked at it. But no, first one, 92.9. I think Ron Tillery, though, had a full-time radio show.
He was a commercial appeal, right?
Yeah, it was at the CA. Well, Michael Eaves had a show, I believe, with Greg Gaston. Michael Eaves, who's now at ESPN on SportsCenter, had a show with Greg Gaston there. So first at 92.9, but there have been a couple other brothers that have done it before me as well. I think Jarvo too, maybe not full-time, but had a regular spot.
But 92.9, you take your spot. You know what I'm saying? That's just all you the empire and stuff y'all building and stuff over there. Because I remember I used to. Verno, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I used to trip
the
out
Verno show, man. The Verno show was crazy, man.
He was a legend, and
still
is
doing his thing at
Grind
City Media.
Yes.
But yeah, man, we appreciate your time. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate y'all having me.
You know what I mean? I know you're a busy guy, so the day we're doing this, I know, it's kind of our time where we all kind of got a little time to spare and do what we do. And of course, I'm a big Grizzly and Tiger fan, so we definitely want to get into some of that at some point.
Of course.
But like how we like to do here on the show, we kind of because most people hear you talk about the Tigers, the Grizz, all the sports around the country and the world, but they don't really know Jason Smith. The real Jason Smith, not the one we were talking about.
Right. Yeah, because I was telling them, I was like, I remember I used to read columns, that he had in the CA. And when I saw it, and I asked my dad, I'm like, isn't this the dude that used to play for the Tigers? And he's like, man, I don't think that's him. I was like, no, his name is Jason Smith,
not
though.
To be mistaken with the former Tigers role player.
And then the picture, like sometimes they had the pictures in black and white, and you're wearing glasses. So I'm like, that's him. He got glasses. Like, he's like,
you had put the,
I'm like, I'm a whole detective. Yeah. He's like, nah, that ain't him. So I'm like, Nah, and you know, my dad is light skinned, so he's like, I think he light skinned. I'm like, no, this black and white, Dad. You don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, man, I remember you from there.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's funny. It's gone back that
yeah.
long that folks like, man, I remember you at the CA. Yeah, it was 13 years at the Commercial Appeal. Started full time in 2003. At that time, you had to sort of climb the ladder, cover high schools first before you could think about anything, or at least that was the way they were gonna, as far as my hiring was concerned, was start at the bottom, see if you can work your way up, and did 13 years at the CA, first 7 covering high school sports, man, everything from, of course, covered some of the greats like Sylvester Ford, over at Fairleigh, some of the great coaches, Terry Tippett, obviously one of the best. Jimmy Adams over Valley Egypt. So I could go on and on. I could go on and on just about the high school basketball in this town. We had some great football teams, those Melrose football teams back in that never could quite get over the hump. Kenny Ingram, who's now a college football coach, had some great teams. It was right after the Tim Thompson era. Tim had gone out to Fairwear, but my point was ready for that. What I wasn't ready for as a high school sports reporter was, covering bowling tournaments, man. High school sport.
Wow.
Bowling tournaments and state bowling. Had to be at St. Mary's to cover the volleyball game. Like, that was all a part of trying to come up and figure out, what I was going to do in this world of journalism. Because I had been a late student, and that's probably a long other story. But after messing it up, coming out of high school '94 for about 5 years there, I didn't know what I was going to do. I'd screwed up my college scholarship, got out, man, went from everything from security guard to trying to frame houses with my brother. Man, found out, man, I couldn't handle the heat. I couldn't handle the cold. Had these weak, soft hands. Wasn't built for it. So I had to try something else. And eventually, man, through all that, learned, man, I better get my tail back in school. Yeah. So in '99, I get back in. I'm an older student, but I figured out, what, I want to follow my dad. You'd mentioned him, want to follow my dad's footsteps. Yeah. Let's try journalism. Had gone back to the U of M as an older student, '99, thinking, okay, I'm going to try television like Dad did. But ended up taking a class there from a brother named Jerome Wright. He was a neighbor's editor at the Commercial Appeal at the time. And long story short, he told me, Jason, you could do television like your dad, or you could try to do it, but with newspapers, and it was a different time in newspapers back then. It was, late '90s, early 2000s. But he told me in newspapers, man, you can tell more of a story. You've got more than a 2 or 3 minute, news bite package for a story, and you can get a little deeper into it. Anyway, he said, you can halfway write. You should look into going into newspapers. Anyway, long story short, I ended up pursuing, instead of television, newspapers. Ended up writing for the college newspaper there, the Daily Helmsman, like so many folks at the CA, and it moved on to great things did. And got a little taste of it there, man. Decided, you know what, I'm going to try this newspaper thing. Was fortunate enough that I got a job at the CA in 2003. So, yeah, 13 years there before 92.9 came calling in 2016. Said, would you like to come join us for 3 hours a day instead of humping on weekends like you've been doing? No, you can still have a media pass, the games and everything. But we just want to work you from 11 to 2. We want you to tell us what's going on, right? But now we want you to weigh in, because I'd been a beat writer for the the Tiger basketball team, worked for the CA, and it wasn't a columnist job. This was more opinion. We want to hear you weigh in on things. Yeah. And I said, man, where do I sign up? 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Now, what is a blessing. A beat writer? Because I've heard people on TV talk about it. I've heard other people that I know have had.
It's a great question.
The job I heard
I
is
think
like
Sale does it. Our guy Thomas Sellers, he's over at the Billington Star. Okay. But he had done some. He's done some beat writing. Okay. He said the weird sports and stuff like that. Sale be at everything.
He do.
Yeah.
Because I heard it's a very grueling position.
It is.
Like job. Like, as far as like what does that usually all entail?
So right now, it's a question. I'm glad you asked, because the nature of it has changed. I mean, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, when I'm reading the paper, it's one thing. And I think as I was in it, maybe a little bit before me, it had started to change, because you had more beat writers having radio shows where they were asked to have opinions. A guy like a Dan Walken, who came here now he's with USA Today, came here as one thing, as a beat writer, gets a radio show where he's asked to be more opinionated, and that starts to, whether you want to or not, naturally mix into the writing. And so people start to expect analysis from Dan Walken in his beat writing, rather so much than Beat writing 101 back in the day, how I came up was supposed to be you call it down the line, you give them the facts, you give them what happened, and you let the reader decide. Coach gets in trouble at the U of M, you go follow it up, you get the police report, anything else, if it's got to do with a player, whatever it is, your job is to get the facts. That was how the old school beat writer was. And when we say beat writing, you had one thing. So my beat was Tigers basketball. You know, I think Thomas Sellers has been on high schools now, but everything out there, he's covered everything out there in Millington and Brighton and all that. But yeah, now you'll have a beat writer nowadays who the job has changed because, you know, quite frankly, just calling it down the lines and telling somebody to score don't get it anymore. You have to tell them what it means, spin it forward to the next day, and that gets more into analysis and maybe into the line of more of opinion. So, and that more importantly gets clicks. Right. Because in the end, just like they were trying to sell newspapers, now they're trying to get, you know, clicks, those kinds of things. And that kind of writing, that old school beat writer style doesn't work. So yeah, you're a beat writer, but what they want from you is change than it has from the old school where don't just give them the facts anymore. Now you got to give them to them and give them a little bit of perspective, context, spin it forward, and maybe drop a little opinion on there. So used to be there was a beat writer and there was a columnist. Okay. The beat writer's job to give you the facts, read them up. Columnist's job was to tell you, here's what it is, right? That was Calkins and those guys. But then the line started to get blurs. Guys got radio shows, kind of changed it all, kind of evolved. And that's kind of where we are now. But to your point about Grulin, yeah, for 6 years, even in a more analytic style, which I struggled with there for a while because I was coming in trying to think, okay, I should just call it down the line. But it was grueling. You're 7 days a week, especially when you're on a beat like Tigers or Grizzlies. And especially as that internet thing comes up, it was sort of an appetite. You know, there was an appetite to get content out there on the internet, get more stories out. You're not writing one story per day anymore. You're writing 3. And so it became, grueling and tough. And anybody who's on the Grizzlies or the Tigers beat in Memphis understands, man, it's nonstop. It doesn't stop when the season's over. Brother, you better be telling them who they're going to get in the offseason, free agency. You better be telling them about Penny's recruiting. Like, if you're not doing that, then you're not giving them what they need, frankly, what they're used to. Been around here since the late 70s and 80s.
Yeah. It sounds like you need to be a little TMZ-ish.
Right. So, like, if this is the book of Jason Smith, right, we flip to the back. You know what I'm saying? Just now, people can read the back.
Yep.
But, like, let's go to the table of contents and go to chapter 1.
Bet.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, tell us, because a lot of people, they know your voice. Like we was talking about off camera. Y'all need to get my boy to do some voice acting.
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
Man,
if you put him in the movie, I just want to be
there.
Gas station attendant number 3. That's it. But, so, chapter 1, like, are you a native Memphian? Like, how did you grow up? Your household? Like, tell us about that.
So, chapter 1, really, in Memphis, Tennessee, was my dad moving us here from Fort Pierce, Florida, where he had been a sportscaster, to work for Channel 5, which at the time had Big Jack Eaton, who was the sports director at Channel 5, longtime sports director.
Yeah.
Jarvis was there, had just gotten there in the late 70s. Jarvis now, who just retired after 40 years. There was also Harold Grader, who's now a bigwig with the AutoZone Liberty Bowl.
Yeah.
They were there, and it shows you just how much of a different time it was. They had a 4-man sports department, and so he moved us. We were from originally Missouri. He had started in country music radio, had moved his way up into a television spot as then one of the few black men in television, moved us down to Florida for a couple of years. We're back up to Memphis in 80 to work for Channel 5. And so my first memories of Memphis were growing up in Midtown Memphis in an apartment, Dad working for Channel 5, not having a bank account, and taking his check up to Zinni's, was a bar on Belvedere and Madison, and having them cash his check. And, man, the funny thing is we ended up growing up in that bar right there in Midtown, just taking our quarters, playing Super Mario Brothers in the back, the popcorn, everything else. And long story short, there we were, an interracial family in the early 80s, and I was second grade going to Bruce Elementary, which was right next to Bellevue Junior High over there in Midtown. I always thought growing up in Midtown, too, I would go to Central. Ended up going to Snowden Junior High over there. All my friends went to Central like I thought I would. But my mom told me, no, fool, you're kind of halfway smart. I want to send you to White Station. Because at the time, White Station had this, aura of, okay, if you're, a good student, you can go out there, get a scholarship somewhere.
Still do.
Still does.
To this day.
But Central did too. That's what I always try to explain to her. Central did just as well. Now the funny thing is Whitehaven is the one, man. Whitehaven pumps out scholarship, just academics, scholar after scholar. Now it's funny how it's White Station stayed right there, but these others have come around it. She just had her mind set on White Station. But back to kind of who I was. My brother and I had a younger brother. It was just us two. We were in a apartment on Stonewall there in Midtown, and yeah, man, we just kind of grew up wild. Black friends, white friends. I remember a lot of that back then. I'm not gonna lie to you. The early '80s. I was born in '76, so you're talking about my formative years. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's my group of friends gonna be? Right. Who can I relate to? Who's gonna reject me? A lot of feeling out process, like that stuff that Oprah would say on the like, how's the baby gonna relate though? When you have a little brown baby, which size is gonna, which ones is gonna relate to? There was a little bit of that feeling out process. Forget a little bit. It was a lot, and it probably ended up impacting me all the way till, I end up at an HBCU in '94 coming out of White Station. But anyway, Midtown kids, back to your point, grew up in Memphis, and man, being an interracial family in Memphis, man, we were everywhere, bro. We were in the gutter, we were in the we were going up and down in the just kind of exploring Midtown, which had everything back then. It felt like it was huge, man. I felt like Highland and Poplar was like way out in the country growing up in Midtown. That's how tight knit we were in Midtown, and being Madison, Belvedere, Poplar, Union, Snowden Junior High. I did end up going to Roselle Elementary, which I thought was far off, just going off to Lamar. Come to find out, man, it was all how tightly knit it was. But man,
I
Memphis.
Went to Roselle too.
I went to Roselle.
Yep.
I went to Roselle from did that 1 year at Bruce in the second grade. Then went to Roselle from the 3rd to the 5th, and they ended up at Snowden from the 6th to the 9th. White Station from the 10th to the 12th. So I was a Memphis kid.
Before I went to Raleigh, Egypt, I was at Roselle.
Creative and Performing Arts School.
Because we stayed, and when he said Bellevue, you know what I'm saying? He said Bellevue, you know me. I'm Bellevue and Macklemore all day. Like
yes, sir.
That's when you cross over Lamar, you're in South Memphis.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like that side is South Memphis. The other side, like where Central is, and the Bellevue Middle School, like that's Midtown. So it's just where that Checkers is. Yeah. If you cross over to the Checkers, you're in Midtown. Yeah. You go back the other way, you're in the South. But so what you have for them?
What age did y'all move here to Memphis? Like what age were you?
So 82-ish, 83-ish. I was 6 years old.
You were
6, 7 years old. We moved here, second grade.
Okay.
Right around that time.
So you were old enough to be like, this is a new city.
Oh yeah.
There's
where's the beach? Because we had been in Florida for a year.
Adventure River.
And I found out about Adventure River.
That was it. That was
before they changed it to Wild Water and Wheels.
And we loved Adventure River.
Adventure River was
until I saw I remember.
Don't hate Vic.
Just a.
You don't remember? Oh yeah, you probably don't remember Adventure River.
I told the story before. I loved it until I saw a stick of doo doo floating through the lazy river, man. Somebody nasty child had let something go, and man, it was never the same for me.
Yeah.
But Adventure River, when I first saw it, it was the closest thing we could get.
I was gonna ask him because you talk about being in an interracial household and like where you were at, and we just alluded to that. Like on one side, you got the people from South Memphis,
no doubt.
You got the people from North Memphis, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I want to say is Bellevue, one of them runs right into North Memphis.
Bellevue,
I think Bellevue, one of them, if you keep it out, it runs. So on both sides, you got. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Then you got people from like Bethel Grove and the Mound. Yeah. You got all of this around you. And at that time period in the early 80s, because it's more common now. But speak on that, because all three of us, if not growing up necessarily in the hood, we was around black people for the most part. And that was the household we grew in. But what was that like? And did you face any did you recognize maybe any adversity or people kind of looking at y'all sideways?
It was crazy. So just being in Roselle, after that year at Bruce where we had everything, the other thing about Midtown, there was a strong Vietnamese population like right behind us too, and still is over there in Midtown. But the thing about Roselle was so interesting. It was an eye opener, and because it was a predominantly black school, and my mom, of course, white mom, wanted to join the PTA. First thing she wants to do, honey, I'll never join the PTA, be a part of this school. And of course, the school's black. And here's the thing about me. As a mixed child, unlike some of my other mixed friends, I had, and you can't see it now, but I I had curly hair, bro. I put it that way. I didn't have the wavy stuff like my other mixed friends had that passed for white. Yeah. I had black hair, bro. And it took me a while. It was nappy, man. And it took me a while to figure out, man, I could get waves and everything else, that I had real black hair. I should put something in it. Because my point was my white mother didn't know how to handle my hair. Right. And my dad was too busy working to help me out. Plus, he had a little tight fro, whatever. He just kept his, put some water in it, would throw the comb through it, and didn't care about trying. Well, I won't say he didn't care, but I didn't get my first real haircut. Y'all would just shake your heads. Probably until the 8th, 9th grade. I remember walking through school and people
haircut?
Like my first real one, where it wasn't just a tight fro that we had got at stage 1. Do y'all remember stage 1? Are y'all old enough? It was a barber school. Okay. Stage 1. It was like a franchise of them, but it was all people going through as student barbers. Anyway, man, my dad would just have them just, and it wasn't until I got into school. I'm gonna get back to Rozelle, but it wasn't until I got to middle school that I finally got the. I got the flat top. Man, when I walked through, it was like, with school, it was like slow motion. It was like everybody was stopping things locking. Because everybody been checking me for so long because of this little nasty fro I had. Again, my white mom didn't know how to take care of black hair. And my dad didn't. He just didn't have no time to be worried about it. Sure. As long as he was, man, paying that rent and putting food on our table, Dad was good. And I respected him for that part. But back to the story. So when my white mom comes up to predominantly black Rozelle, and most of the kids had just thought, hey, he's a light-skinned black kid, it sent a shockwave through the class. Like, what? And they called me everything from Oreo to honky nigga blood to everything. Man, that stuff, man, to this day still, like when I think about it, like back then, how the little kid in me was like, oh no, because I had never been, I've been around everybody, but nobody was like straight insulting me for being biracial. And so, coming up, there was a ton of it, bro. It was like, you don't fit here, you don't fit there. And so a lot of it was like, back to that point about trying to fill out, okay, where will I not be rejected? Who's going to accept me? There was a lot of that for a lot of years. And it probably wasn't until Snowden, until after Rozelle, because at one point I remember asking my dad, man, it's the saddest thing ever, man. I remember him and me talking about it over a beer. But I'd asked him, man, please, don't have mom come to the school. It's like it causes a problem for me. Right. And dude, I remember to this day, like he didn't cry, but I could tell it rocked him emotionally, like, because he had never thought about, okay, my mixed kid is facing some issues here, and really from black folks, from black folks that are supposed to be. He probably thought embracing them because he passes as a light-skinned black kid or whatever. Right. Like he probably never even thought about whether my kid's passing or not. Like Dad wasn't concerned about those issues. Again, he was trying to move up the media ladder, everything else. But here I was kind of trying to figure it out, and it was coming the hottest from black folks, trying to say, bro, you ain't one of us. Like you a little white. Listen to the way you talk, all that stuff. Yeah. And it was coming from my own people.
Now, the obvious, like, how did you take the Memphis check-in? Because I know it's just it's different. Yeah, man. Now I can just see in your face when you was. It was so hard.
But you know what? I bet he can check though.
Oh, he got to.
I bet he's reserved and perfect. But I bet if he with his homeboys,
you got to.
You almost claim it. You have to be rhythmic to be able to check in a way where it's going to make somebody, clam up, because you got to keep coming. There's a rhythm to that.
It's different in Memphis.
Unfortunately, because I was born white, I don't have. So what I tried, at least for me, the way I looked at it, I don't have the cadence, I don't have whatever else, because I could throw one slick one at you, and that's always what I try to do, is be slick and witty from the side and get one in. But if I was the guy in the front of the checking contest, could never do it, man, because again, I believe the best checkers have a rhythm to them. You know what I'm saying? I've been able to tap it enough that I can get away with a two-step and a dance step, but there's no way that I got enough rhythm to be able to be a great Memphis checker. And so I would get lit up, bro.
Now, you know what?
It's about numbers.
He don't say it.
Yeah,
he broke it down.
Yeah,
it really is. It really is.
But Crown, you believe it or not, Crown is amazing. But when he was growing up, though,
it had to grow.
They used to try to get him, and like I was like big brother to him. I'm like, no, I ain't gonna let you get my guy. But at the same time, I'm like, but I used to get him too, though. And then I'd be like, now what you got to say?
Right.
I'm not finna let you get. You know what I'm saying? But to your point, and you got brothers though. You know what I'm saying? So they probably, but like with me,
but I still had to learn. I think I told the story when Marcus was here. We talked about the worst shoe when I wore them Jacksonville Jaguar shoes in 8th grade. Some Jag. The team just came out. It was an expansion team. You know what I'm saying? We went to, folks was like, oh, what you want? I was like, yeah, it's gonna give me them. Man, I went to school. I was 7th, 8th grade. Like,
oh yeah, you was in middle school.
You know what I'm saying? Like
it
it was torture. Like,
man, my hair was a constant. And my hair back then, because it was, I remember the girls calling it sheep's wool, because I wasn't putting nothing in water. So y'all know by midday, bro, it was just tight.
Oh yeah, now when all the moisture leaves, it's over.
Couldn't get nothing through it, bro.
You're just looking like Screech.
So much later, I learned about pink moisturizer. My grandmother said, "Here, son, look, your parents are not taking care of you. Here's a bottle of pink moisturizer. Just put it in your hair before you go to school. You have a much easier time."
Right.
Thank God for my. That was my paternal grandmother, my black grandmother.
It's crazy because listening to him talk, like, it's very extremely distinguished and professional, right?
Sure.
But you can tell, like, you sound, and that's why I asked, are you originally from Memphis? Because you sound like a Memphis dude.
Yeah. Right.
But like I was saying, like with me,
he been around.
When we moved back from Maryland and Virginia, we moved back here. Like my thing at Roselle is, oh, you think you white? You talk like a white boy.
So you got it.
So I got, but it wasn't because of my,
exactly.
you know, as long when they saw me, it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
And to your point, like, you know, I got the nigga here. I got the straight out the roots, Kunta Kinte, LeVar Burton.
The chicken.
LeVar Burton when he was Kunta. Before they chopped his, I had the LeVar Burton hair from Roots.
Dang.
Like that was my hair.
That's mine too, man. Believe it or not, it was there.
He did have a little line. He had a little line.
But as soon as I opened my mouth up, it's like, oh,
you don't sound like it.
And it's not. I was living in Maryland and Virginia because I was born here. But then I got educators in my family.
Right.
So it's like my grandmother was a secretary at EA Harrell for 30 years. Yep. You know, my aunt, Dr. Catron, she, you know, was at Fairleigh. You know, my cousin, her daughter, that's the principal at Circles of Success. Like educators. So I couldn't say I couldn't talk a certain way, but like, you know, like with you, it was different because, and that's why we kind of asked that because,
for sure,
it's different. And we get it from our own people.
Yep.
You know, and it doesn't go on as much now, but like growing up with that.
Oh man, it's funny. It's so funny, man. We to this day, my wife now, who's half Puerto Rican, half black, bro, when she sees the brother with the white woman on the television, knowing that I come from that, she's still like, oh, there you go with that. And I'm talking about, and I sit there laughing, and Will, honey, you know that's where I come from. Like, how can you still like be? But still to this day, and she now to her point, now she's half something. She's literally like I call myself a mud, I call myself a half breed. She's literally half and half too. This Puerto Rican and black woman. Yeah. But I'm telling you, man, anytime.
And for that reason, I say you're winning.
But back,
total segue.
That's why our son got a little bit of. You got the Puerto Rican, the white, and then he's 50% black, but he's a quarter Puerto Rican, and man got the good hair. Man, got it made.
I was gonna make a joke. I'm gonna make it off camera because I don't want to. We ain't got started yet. I don't want us to get canceled.
And then he's got a dad who's had all these hair issues. That's not gonna be. That's like, man, we finna have you so straight, and bro. I was brushing that pattern in there for him. Man, he never gonna have to face that kind of adversity that his dad did. But anyway, back to the point.
I was gonna make a breakdancing joke, but he said off camera that he wasn't good with the dancing, so.
Oh, bro, we tried every. My white mom set up a talent show for us doing remember Breaking, man, we had the Breaking album, right. Man,
Ozone,
and
was it Ozone?
Turbo and Ozone, bro, that man, I'll never forget Shabadoo, I believe that was his real name or something. Did dude just pass?
Who?
The light skinned one, man, Ozone, who I was
talking about. That was
I found one. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was during COVID time. I remember his name came up.
Yeah, we're not gonna say nobody passed no more too soon.
After this,
I don't know if you saw
that from radio. Not to say. That's why I asked.
I made a faux pas.
I don't say I think, dude, or nothing. That's why I asked. I know from radio.
And clearly, the guy who I thought passed was not of the same.
Listen to this, Jason, man. On the last episode we did. This man said, "Rest in peace to Stan Bell." This fool thought Stan Bell was gone.
Oh, Lord, bro.
So we like, bro, like, what you?
I just heard Stan today.
I was like, bro, like,
man, he's and still working many jobs.
He is.
Bro.
He really is.
Yeah,
he really is.
Man, Stan ain't
so
gone.
It said we caused a pause and say R.I.P. It said we did. We like, bro.
No, I mean, like I said, but no, if you saw what I was, let's see, hold up. Yeah, Shabadoo, that was, he played his Ozone.
Yeah.
Okay, no, he did pass.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
he did pass in 2020.
There was a rumor that it was COVID, but I don't remember.
Yeah, in 2020, he passed in 2020.
Man, him and Prince, man, growing up, I just thought them was the two coolest dudes. Man, you could man, I was Michael Jackson fan for a while, but Prince and Shabadoo, man, Ozone.
Now, to my point, when I was talking about the checker, like to me, that's what I always say. Like, it could go one or two ways. It can help you have thicker skin, like growing up, or it can like put you on the opposite, like in the shell, I kind of let you have some other type of insecurity stuff kind of going on. Or I could probably do both.
I was gonna tell you probably
You know what I'm
a little
saying?
bit of both to me.
Yeah, it probably do a little bit of both. Because I mean, for me, like I always had one semester where I had a good roasting session. Like it was always some part of the year in the cafeteria where it was my time. You know what I'm saying? But then, but just like anybody, just like you block shots like the Block Panther, Jaren Jackson, like he gonna get a lot of blocks, but he gonna get dunked on too.
He is.
You know what I'm saying?
So
it's a here and there, but as long as people, you know what I'm saying, continue, you know what I'm saying, to talk about you, or whatever, like as long as they respect you to a sense, you know what I'm saying.
But look, so you talked about the semester of getting it in.
Yeah.
You remember my Rampage? Like a lot of people don't know. Like I went to school with Scooter McFadden. I went to school with Corey Bradford. I went to school with Moo who played for the Globetrotters. And I also went to school with the great Quentin Rampage Jackson. And so, I got officially introduced to him, I was in the 9th grade, and like he was in the 10th. He looked like he was a grown ass man at 15, right? I'm talking about, and he used to come to school with the chain like Junkyard Dog, and like he walked down the hallway barking at people. Like that was not something he did in MMA. Like that was him. So I was checking some seniors. We in the cafeteria, so like they thinking they gonna get me. I lit them up. And so, now the other seniors laughing at them, you know what I'm saying? And he used to get cafeteria duty because he'd get in trouble all the time. So he'd have to clean up the tables. So I didn't roast the seniors, and me and my homeboy walk out. So we're walking. All of a sudden, you hear the cafeteria door bust open. Boom! And he's walking out. So me and my homeboy, we look like, oh, snap, like that's the dude. Oh, he finna get somebody. So we're looking like, who is he finna get? But like the whole time, he's making a beeline, like straight for like me walking towards, cause so we're looking around like it ain't nobody else over here. Like who is he coming for? So my homeboy's like, I think he's trying to get you roasted. I'm like, get me for what? I ain't do nothing. Man, that man walked over to me, one hand, grabbed me, picked me up off the ground. So now again, I got to save face because I feel like I'm about to die. So if I'm about to die, like I'm not finna die like no punk. Right. So I did the only thing an illogical person would do in that moment. I just started cussing at him, calling him everything a child of God. And he's getting more mad. So now I'm thinking as he's walking me back to the cafeteria, like, you know what? I should stop. But somewhere between up here and here, I kept going. I was too far in. I was invested. So he's getting, and he's like he's not real light, but I can see him turning red. I see the veins in his forehead, right? Mm-hmm. He walks me in one hand now. He walks me all the way from, so like the distance was about from where your driveway is to the end of the street up there. That's how far he walked me down to where that stop sign is. One hand. He walked me in the cafeteria, and eventually, long and short of it was the seniors that I had checked had told him that I left the food on the table for him to have to clean up, and that's why he came and got me. But they were so mad.
They ratted you out.
And so, but then, and like we didn't even eat anything. Like we had like some popcorn that we carried out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But and when he saw they was looking in the window, like kind of kikiing or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, y'all tried to set this guy up." And after that, for the next 3 years, like me and him was cool.
Rampage.
Yeah. So shout out to my guy Quentin Rampage Jackson.
Rampage. Yeah, it was a story right there. Now, yeah, I think we got an answer on that. So your father, now your father's name, I don't think we got that.
Les Smith. He's
Les Smith.
Les Smith. 30 years. He came here, like I said, in sports, but then midway through his career, he switched over to news and finished his last half as a Fox 13 investigative reporter before I think 2015.
I had no idea that was your dad.
A little short, 5'8", Les Smith.
Yeah.
I remember this was maybe when you first started maybe in radio or something like that, where I saw I think you said it or something. You were like, yeah, my dad is Les Smith. I'm like, dang.
We used to have him on regularly doing college football picks just out of Belize because he's retired, lives in Belize now.
Oh, he kicking it.
He
kicking it.
Not like you think. Myron Lowry went down there and visited and thought Dad was living on a hot, and went down there, man, saw how Dad was living in them sticks.
Say not quite.
He got away from everybody. Man, Myron turned around and came back up here to Memphis, man.
And said,
yeah, he wanted to get away from everything. So you can go to Belize City like on Southwest, but like to get to Dad, you got to take a hopper, which is one of them small planes, one of their planes, from Belize City to where he is in Placencia, which is another 30-minute ride, like on a 14, 15 passenger propeller jet. He's off in the sticks, bro. And it's like a little, man, what's so funny? It reminds me of Midtown. It's just like a small little tight-knit community where he can be known. It's kind of like Cheers, man. I don't know if y'all saw Cheers back in the day.
Yeah.
Where he walks in the bar, everybody says his name, dad's content. He's away from it. He can chime in on Facebook. I thought being away from the news, of Memphis news, which he was a part of for so long, Memphis sports, all of it. His two sons, who my younger brother's got 2 daughters. I've got my son now who's 9. I thought all of that eventually like would pull him back after a few years because dad can't even swim. So to retire to a beach locale,
Right.
which a lot of, to be honest with you, you know, his wife, my stepmom, ended up, you know, helping pick that out. But anyway, man, he got down there. I thought he'd be hightailing it back to Memphis in a couple of years. Man, been down there for about 7 years, 8 years now. Yeah, we finally went. Man, to the long story short, you know, because I resented it at first as a son. I had to deal with it on my own.
Right.
Realize, you know, man, take myself out of it. He's earned the right to live it out anyway he wants to. He don't owe you or your son necessarily anything. But for a while there, my way of getting him back before was not going down, not visiting him. He kept saying, man, come see me. Right. Oh, Dad, it's too expensive. What the hell you go down there for?
Right.
You come up here. You want to see your grandson come up here. I kind of held it against him, which
sure.
was wrong to do. So we finally went down there last October, and I got to see how he was living after he'd been there about 7 years. And man, y'all would shake your heads how they walk around down there barefoot and man, drinking from sun up to sundown. But that's how he, you know, he saved.
Sounds like my kind
that's
of
what he
place.
did with his. That's what he did with his
Not
retirement
from
money,
sun.
man.
I wait till about like 12:30, 1 o'clock at least.
Man said 12.
Gotta wait till about 12:30, 1 o'clock. Get you a little breakfast in you.
Man,
know, hydrate.
they take a mid-afternoon nap after the early morning drunk. Take a mid-afternoon nap and then get right back to it. And that's, you know, that's a little bit so it's about,
too rich for my blood.
It's about 30 years. It's about 30 years of Memphis television that he was in there with a little bit of break in between. But the funny thing about that, he ended up working for all the television stations. Went from 5 to then the sports director at 3. Then he had the break. He was at the music building at Memphis, believe it or not, man. He had an issue with his career that he still doesn't talk a lot about to this day. But it was a break. Then he gets back in. When I was over at Memphis, actually, at the helmsman, kind of my career was growing. He saw me, said, I'm going to try to jump back in, and did with Channel 24. Then he ended up at 13 for the last dozen or so years. So he was like, man, he ended up, man, one of the few in Memphis media that worked for all the television stations.
I don't say because I remember I don't know if it was the last one, but it was him and Valerie. I can't think of what her last name is.
Valerie Calhoun that does the morning show now.
Yeah. But they would be on there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and he's like, so when you said Les Smith, I'm like, I know exactly who you talking about. Like,
it's such a small town. He was on for so long that, man, you know, Memphis. It's just like seeing Jarvo. You know, you see him, it's like, oh man, you didn't see him since you grew up. Folks usually recognize either the name or when they see his little tail. They remember, oh yeah, I remember him doing this. And when he finally, you know, late in his career, he won an Emmy for a story he did on, I want to say a Bartlett kid that nearly drowned. Like it was the Miracle Boy or something. And it was, you know, for him, it represented something he had been chasing. And not long after that, he retired, went on down to Belize.
So you pretty much kind of in the same industry as your dad, and you're, you know, with 92.9 now for what, probably 6
It'll
years?
be 7 years in October.
7 years. Yep. So is this kind of like you're in your dream industry, like your dream job, or, you know, is this something that you obviously wanted, but it's just like, this is like, wow, I get paid to do this?
That's what it is.
That's
what it is now. Because 13 years at the CA, after a while, you know, while I did feel like I was moving up the ladder, you were capped off at what you could make. And so when I moved from preps, covered high school sports for 7 years, to the Tigers beat in 2010 to cover Joe Jackson, Chris Crawford, Tarek Black, Will Barton, that crew, I didn't get a raise. And so I thought, okay, bigger beat, more money, here comes the prestige. And while you do get the sort of, hey, I'm going to follow him on Twitter. I had to get on Twitter because they're like, this is a more important beat for you. I hadn't been on Twitter, social media, jumped on. And all of a sudden, all these Tigers fans are coming at me. And I realized, holy cow, there's a real thirst for this. Like, even though, we'd had great ones, Dan Walker and Gary Parrish, I knew what the job was. I'm watching them do it. I didn't realize until I got in those shoes how much of a thirst and how big those shoes are. Yeah. And so anyway, I get into it. And yeah, man, you're writing 7 days a week. You're on social media, and the social media world's changing to where now you're posting your stories on there. You know, you need to have more of a presence, grow your followers. So it's a whole new world. But yeah, it was a tough 6 years, because if you're not breaking stories on that beat, and it's kind of changed now almost, because there's so much less access. Like you're not in the locker room after the Tigers games anymore. Those things started to end, kind of as I was coming in. You get less of that, and so with less access and less relationships with those coaching staffs, you get less broken stories. You see in these national guys, especially happens at the NBA level with Woj. Like the Grizzlies don't let anybody get close. Heck, now they got their own media system with Grind City, Grind City Media. But back to the point, yeah, it was hard, man, because you were always plugged in. I remember being on vacation trying to take my wife and kid to a Chicago Cubs game. She's from Chicago, like my dad was. And I'm trying to think, Nick Marshall, I think it was, some Tiger that ended up not being nothing, but at the time was enough of a recruit. Man, we had to. I was on the way to Wrigley, had to pull over to the park, write the story on my phone because there was nobody else to get on it. And more importantly, I didn't want to lose my gig either. That was the thing, is I felt like I'm in these shoes. I don't want to fail at it. Second generation journalist at the time. I don't want to blow it, for that fact. And at the time, there'd only been a couple of black Tigers beat writers, one of the first. But that was it, too. It was like, okay, he grew up a Tigers fan, like he's in his dream job. Didn't want to mess it up. So I always felt this great pressure. And with that pressure came, man, it was like, remember after that first year, people were comparing me to Walken in Paris, saying, man, this man is sorry. They were talking about me on the message boards. I was like, man, you talk about thick skin. Man, if I had developed a little bit of something through coming up through Memphis schools and Memphis checking, when I got them and saw my name on message boards being told, oh, man, this man is sorry. Like, we've had some great Tigers beat writers. This man ain't finna be one of them. Like, they had already, at that first year, I remember I was like, oh, I'll be better. I was trying to tell people on Twitter and all. I was taking it real personal. But my point was, man, there was a pressure with that job that for each of those 6 years, I felt every day. And so back to your question, when 92.9 came calling, it was like, okay, I can breathe.
Right. Yeah.
I can just talk for 3 hours, and oh, you're saying I don't have to just talk Tiger basketball? Like, you're gonna let me weigh in on Grizzlies, and it's like my show with John Martin, and who I knew already because he had been covering recruiting with me at the Commercial Appeal. We kind of already had a relationship, and so it was I have no idea, it was a blessing of God. Because here's what had to happen, to be real with y'all. Chris Vernon who was a monster. Y'all have already talked about him. That's the slot I'm in right now.
Yep.
He had it was a powerhouse station it was. I used to go on Chris Vernon's show as the Tigers beat writer, just doing a hit with him. Like, he was entrenched. Verno, man. Everybody in town knew him. And so Vernon came to a situation with management where he wanted more, they want more, whatever. Right, that falls out. They go through a couple of guys, Roser, Vernon's sidekick. I mean, might as well say that Vernon's a producer. They give him an opportunity, as they should. Okay, we're gonna give you the show with I think they were gonna put John with him, do the John and John show. He tries out for a day. After that, he's like, you know what? No, I'm not a host. Not know. Maybe he may have already had his deal with Vernon to go over there. Right. Eventually, he had to play it because long story short, Rosa had to spend a year with us because of his non-compete before he went over there. So long story short, they went through that. They went through, people were always saying you need a black voice in 92.9, so they went through a couple other brothers. Rick Trotter, I don't know if y'all remember him, the PA announcer for the Grizzlies. They got into a lot of, some trouble later on.
I remember that.
I think they tried him for a day or two, or maybe he was just a sub. But my point of saying all that is, bro, I was never like the first pick. It had to fall through so many things, and Vernon was already a success. That had to fall out before it. Right. It wasn't like they were clamoring for Jason Smith, and they weren't really clamoring for anybody black like people have been telling them to get, because the thing was already successful. Right. Bro, that's why I tell you, it wasn't nothing but God for Vernon, a legend, for that to end up where it did, for them to go through about 2 or different versions of it, and they might tell you different, but for me, it went through 2 or 3 different versions. They'll always tell you, well, Jason we loved him. He was our first pick. Right. But no, it went through a couple. That's how I know it wasn't nothing but God. So back to your point, I think now when you ask me, is this I just look at it as, man, this is where God has me, and maybe some of that is getting a little bit closer to Him as I've gotten older. But rather than looking at it as this is what I've always wanted to do, or that this is the end or the beginning or anything else. I just look at it as, man, this is where God's got me, man. I'm so fortunate now, man. I'm not in that grind or having to be plugged in every minute like I was on Tigers, and it's a responsibility too, because there are so few of us brothers. There's so few blacks in especially sports talk radio that I don't want to drop the ball either, because Lord knows, man. I mean, it sounds cliche, but if I F it up, just like we were talking to the Memphis baseball coach the other day, Rampage Jackson, who's the first black Memphis baseball coach, 17 baseball coach, he's the first black one. And his point, he kept saying, yeah, there's a pressure that comes with it, but what I feel more is a responsibility, because if I screw up, or he did it at Southern, he did it in an HBCU, took him to the NCAA tournament. But of course, the question is, can you do it outside of a HBCU? Can you do it at a larger program? That was his point. He said he don't want to fail, because he knows then they'll say, well, brother coach, there ain't but 5 in power outside the HBCUs. He's one of them. If he fails, he feels like they'll say, man, they can't handle the higher level. You know how it is with just any job or anything else. And so, like he said, he doesn't feel a pressure necessarily every day, but a responsibility to be good, so that they can't say he can't do it at this level, so that for the next brother he gets the opportunity. And I think there's a lot of that. Not to sound like I'm making history or anything else, because I'm not, but there's a lot of feeling like, man, I better not screw this up, just because we need more.
Now I think it's definitely history. And to y'all credit, man, like, it was gonna be tough for anybody to follow Verno. You know what I'm saying? From when, like, and I think
even with his guests, like, he had the guy that would come on to do like the Vegas picks that was supposed to be like, they called him Uncle something, but he would come on.
Vinny Verno.
Right? Yeah, Vinny Verno. Right.
He would do.
That was him doing the voice.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was another person, right?
Yeah,
right. And then he had the guy who always called in, the black dude, Taco Meat.
Yeah.
Like, he was always
Taco Meat's hilarious.
I used to listen so much,
I love this show.
But you and John
awesome,
are really doing y'all thing, because no matter who it was, bro.
I'm telling you,
we
were a lot like Josh Pastner following John Calipari. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I will say this, like, it's not like Vernon was fantastic. He's one of the GOATs in Memphis. Like, there've been great ones, Lapidus, that have done it for a long time. But Gary Parrish is, to me, just as good as Vernon. So I say Vernon's, we were replacing John. John is the best Memphis ever had.
Right.
We replaced one of the greats in Verno, because Gary's just as good to me. So I can't say that just Verno was John Calipari. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it was a lot like, we were Pastner, we were the newbies. I was a newspaper guy. They were like, does he have a personality at all? We don't know. How's this gonna go? Yeah. So there was a lot of we were following the dude that you don't want to follow. I mean, that dude, folks still talk about that show, and it's crazy.
Bro.
Like, people talk about, well, what happened to it? Where'd it go? Like I loved that show. He still does it from Grind City Media, but because, to be honest with you, and he would say this to you too, it's not as much of a platform, so it's not as seen. He's doing the same show for Grind City Media at noon, but it's not as heard or as seen as it used to be. But still, that dude's a legend. He's a success. He helped give me. He was one of the guys that had me doing radio, doing spots with him beforehand. So, dude, I am double. Even though we don't talk, it's funny. Like, me and him don't talk. We used to have a great relationship. Who knows what the reason is for that? But I feel indebted to that man.
Right.
Number one, because of the thing with him and I. If he doesn't leave, bro, I'm still slaving at a newspaper, making $50,000 a year, and no way out, no bonuses, no raises, no nothing.
Yeah.
How am I gonna have a family and a house and all that on? It's tough, especially when my wife is, man, got caviar taste, man.
Caviar.
Like
so real quick, because you said your dad and your wife are from Chicago. They wouldn't happen to be Bulls fans, would they?
My dad was a Celtics fan.
Okay.
Growing up because of Bill Russell.
Right.
But because of me and Michael Jordan, and that came from watching WGN here in Memphis.
Okay.
He switched over to Bulls, not because he's from there, but he switched over because he saw his son falling in love with this dude from North Carolina.
Right.
I
don't never root against the home team, but it's like, I have, so like my oldest child is 16. And then now for some reason I started over. So I
back
got
in the
twins.
game. He back in the
back
game.
in. Every time I get out, they keep putting me back in. But so it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Bulls is like my daughter. Like, I've been, like, you helped me become me.
Yeah.
So you're never going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? My twins and my baby, like, y'all, I don't never root against the twin, but like, And that's kind of how, you know what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So like I've been a Bulls fan since I was 4 years old. You know, we moved around a lot, so I didn't necessarily have a team, and we moved back here. Memphis didn't have a team. And I don't, you remember this, but like when the Grizzlies first came, they kept every couple of years they was talking about, well, Seattle doesn't have a team anymore.
Right.
We're going to send them back to Seattle. So it's like
there were no
by
ties.
the Titans.
Yeah, you didn't have any ties.
Right. You know how the Titans did us. It's like they played here for like a year and a half, and like, oh, we don't want to be in Memphis. So I was like, you know what? I'm not even finna. Y'all gonna have to convince me.
That's why most Memphis don't mess with the Titans.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Exactly. So as you see, I'm still. I never got off of my Niners, but you already know. Yeah. But it was like, so like I said, I don't never root against the home team, but at the same time, it's like
when the Bulls in town,
I sit up here and argue with you all day and night about the Bulls.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. The Grizzlies, like I'm gonna argue with you to a point.
Right. And
at the end of the day, it's like, nigga, I'm from Memphis. You know, like, and I'm going to leave it at that, but, you know, shout out to your dad and your wife for being Bulls fans.
Bears and Bulls.
Well, everybody, you can just see the room. You know who I'm for.
Right. Yeah, we know you.
It's Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Cowboy fan. But this is a good segue to kind of move into the sport because you are a sports guy, and we do talk sports. And I want to, you know, like, this was sometime last year, and I actually put an executive mindset of talking about Penny. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And I think you were one of the ones that kind of on the radio, you pushed back a little bit, which I gave you. I'm like, dude, yeah, because to me, it was obvious. Like, I wasn't trying to boot Penny out, but I was holding him accountable to a degree. Was like, you know, hey, you know what I mean?
And that's
like,
why I said I didn't want him to become Memphis coach because I knew that was going to happen. But when he don't produce, niggas going to turn on him like they did Larry Finch. And to me, he is too much of a legend to the city. And Memphis has this impression because we look good at the prom. We thought we was that chick all along. No,
there you go.
You cleaned up good for the prom. Like when Calipari was here, that was the prom. Mm-hmm. We had Dana Kirk. That was the prom. We cleaned up good for the prom. But like, let's not get it twisted. You the girl before and after picture. You're before the makeover. Like, let's not get it twisted. We're not Duke. We're not North Carolina. We're not UCLA, Michigan State, Arizona, UConn. Mm-hmm. We can go down the list. Okay. We're good.
But you named them five. We under them five though. After that though, we under that though.
No.
I'm saying we not them blue bloods, but we like a tier.
We love basketball that much.
No, I don't agree with that.
Our program. Think about it. In how many years has Memphis had a college in D1? How many times have we made it to the Final Four, the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16, the 32? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not act like every year we're there. Like, we'll have a good team, we're there, then we're rebuilding, then we have a good team, we're there, and sometimes we might be there for 2 or 3 years, then we're rebuilding again, then whatever. But you talk about them blue bloods, worst case scenario, every year they in the round of 32.
Yeah, we're not a blue blood.
And that's all I'm saying. So we act like we're like the Boise State of college basketball. You remember how Boise State came out and everybody's like, oh, Boise State, so they got in a real conference and then they got back to reality.
Yeah. See, Jace, this is what I say about the.
Okay, let me hear your take on what Memphis should be.
Now, I think we average in Memphis Tigers. I think we do a deep run maybe before this tenure, like every 3 or 4 years. We kind of made a deep, you know what I'm saying, like second weekend type of deal. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we're in the blue bloods. Like you can name 5 or 6 schools under that, but that next tier, like the next 8 to 15 teams in the country, I think Memphis historically should be right there. Like we shouldn't be in the blue bloods, but right past that.
If Memphis was in the SEC, do you think we would be there? I don't.
I mean, with the teams that we've had,
the Big East,
they went 5-1 against the SEC this year.
Yeah, I'm saying. You're more qualified to speak about this than me. But I'm just saying, like, okay, that's this year. But
I was saying this is a bad year to make because the SEC is a little bit down this
right.
year.
But I'm just saying,
to your point, are you at the top of the heap?
Like when Kentucky had Rick Pitino and, you know what I'm saying, Alabama had those teams with like Robert Horry and Spreewell and James Hollywood Robinson on, like, we wasn't.
I think we would have had our laws just like we've been in a different conference, but like in the 80s, we would have been tight in the SEC.
Yeah, we had Keith Lee and Andre Turner and Baskerville
in the beginning of the 90s with Penny.
2 7-footers, Brad Sellers, and
we would have been good because we were going against Arkansas, beating them. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think you've given us as much credit.
I'm not. I just know what we are. And it's just like when you watch your kid, you got a kid that play a sport.
Right.
You love your child. And so when your child make a basket, you talk big stuff. But like now, if your child playing versus Bronny or, Victor Wembanyama or Scoot, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, okay, you not Scoot nice. You know what I'm saying? You playing the dudes that stay around the corner. Man, knock that J down. Yeah, I got you locked up. When Scoot come in the building or Bronny come in the building, you're like, okay, simmer down now. And that's all I'm saying.
Now, would you agree? Like, we're under the blue blood section. We're not at the bottom tier.
No. I'm not saying we're not bottom tier. I'm saying, but people's expectations, they talk like we're Duke or North Carolina or UCLA or Arizona. Because I don't respond to the comments, but I read them.
Right.
And people act like we're just this program. Like we have one national championship appearance. One. And like 75, 80 years of us being in that tournament, we got one. We got 2 Final Four appearances, which is the one that we made the national championship, and then the one where we lost to Villanova in the 80s.
Well, you got 73 as well, where Larry.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. That's 2.
It's
that's
2
UCLA.
runner-up finishes.
Right.
3 Final Fours.
Yeah. So I apologize. My mistake.
What you say, Jay? I got some more to say, but I want to hear what you think.
I'm kind of in the middle of you guys because I do think my guys got a point that expectations are too high right now. Expectations still feel like they're currently based on what Cal did that back half of the decade or so that he was here. First 5 years look a lot like Penny's first 5 years. To be honest with you, Cal won an NIT. He's got 2 NCAA tournament appearances in those first 5. And Penny, if he goes this year, will have the 2 in the first 5 with an NIT title as well. The record is almost identical, but it was after that where Cal blew up. So, and I think people still to this day feel like they're entitled to those years again, where it wasn't just a perennial top 25 team. It was a team that could perennially compete for a championship, for number 1 seed. I mean, even Tyreek the next year, like that team was good. It had a chance to be sort of better than what we've seen around here of late. Right. Now, I think traditionally Memphis has always been and still should be, and I think this is the way Penny sees it, as a top 25 program yearly. Like, that's where you should be. Are you a blue blood? No. But I'm kind of with JB. Like, it's next tier down. This is where you should be, is around that top 25 in it. And then every 4 to 5 years, making second weekend runs, making what could be Elite Eight. I mean, Larry Finch went to an Elite Eight with Penny Hardaway. You know what I'm saying? We were doing that with Larry Finch as the head coach. It wasn't just Dana and Bedford and those guys. Like, that was happening with him as well. And then obviously Cal took it to a whole nother level. But no, man, even going back to when Larry goes there in the late 60s, gets the program as a player to the national championship game, I think that put Memphis on the map in a way that, and it still should be. No, it's a national brand. What you don't want to be is Georgetown. That's fallen off. It used to be a national brand. Man, I remember buying Georgetown stuff when I was in middle school so much so that, it felt like, it felt like it was an others have said this, it felt like it was an HBCU. Yep. Seeing John Thompson up there coaching those black kids, man, it felt huge. And you think about where that brand is now.
And they stay sending guys to the NBA, too.
Oh, bro, back then, all the centers, Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo, like, what are we talking about after Patrick?
Othello Harrington.
Yes, bro. Like, it was tradition, and you look at where they are now, they have fallen off the map. DePaul has done that. DePaul with Aguirre, those guys, they used to pump out talent. Look at that program now. It's fallen off. And that is what Memphis needs to avoid. Now, has the brand fallen that far? Heck no. And I think with the way Penny's recruiting, with at least these first 5 years in terms of what we've seen from him building a foundation, you can get it back. But I think it should be, I'm with JB, that it should be below the Blue Bloods. It should perennially be a top 25 program. Sports Illustrated ranked it as that. Talking about traditionally, I think they ranked the best programs in the country a few years ago. And Memphis was there in the 20s. It's one of the best in terms of history, tradition, Final Four appearances, national title game appearances. Where you're right is that Cal took it to a level where the expectations are so jacked up, it will never be like that again. You are never going to run a conference like they did, and it's not going. I don't think it'll ever be as easy for you because the difference is now too with the transfer game,
portal,
with NIL. Like, the game has changed so much just in the 5 years Penny's has been coached. That's the other thing about him, that in this time where college basketball has changed so much, college athletics has changed, he's shown he can still be at the forefront recruiting. He's going out and getting the top guy in the transfer portal, and Kendrick Davis, so with the NIL they can do it. This is on from the basketball side. So it shows that with their resources, with Penny Hardaway, they can compete, get top recruiting classes. So with all that, you should at least be a top 25 program every year. That should be the standard with every 4 or 5 years making a run. But it'll never be. Yeah. I truly believe it'll never be like Cal.
Top 25, 30, I'm there.
I think they should be there.
You know what I'm saying?
With
like,
the resources.
But again, because like I said, I watch how you respond to people's comments. Like, I read, like, when I have time, I read them. But people act like we're top 2, top 5, and like we've been that always.
Yeah, we haven't won anything.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we had a couple of teams, like the '73 team with Finch and Ronnie Robinson and Larry Keene and all those guys,
80s.
And then the '80s team with Keith Lee and Turner and all those guys, and then you had. I mean, I wouldn't even say, like, when you think about with the Penny team, like, you had Penny and Billy Smith.
Man, them folks had 6. Like, man, you don't remember Anthony Douglas was
No, Anthony Douglas was an All-American in high school.
Douglas,
but
Billy
you know what I'm
Smith.
saying? But I mean, in terms of
Matlock
college,
was there his last
Matlock.
Had Matlock lost to
Ernest Smith.
Lost to Cincinnati like 4 times that year, including in the Elite Eight.
Nick Van Exel
killed us.
I remember that game. That team was good.
Nick Van Exel killed us.
If it hadn't been Cincinnati, them folks would have gone on through. Like, they had a chance with Penny. Penny was so cold. I be forgetting how cold he was.
And people forget too, though. Like, when we beat Arkansas, you got to remember, Arkansas had Todd Davis, who everybody thought should have went to Memphis because he played at Hamilton.
Memphis,
and Corey Beck. Corey played it. Was it Fairleigh?
Well, no. So here's Lee Mayberry was with Todd. Corey was with Dwight and Corliss Williamson that actually won the title in '94. But the guys that were with Todd were earlier. Todd didn't win a champion. Todd, it was Lee Mayberry, Todd Day, and remember Big O, Oliver Miller was their center inside.
Yep. You know what I'm saying? I thought later on Todd they played, Corey. They had 2 So
like Corey Todd had Arliss, the kid was from South Side.
I thought they had. Y'all was saying. I thought they had a couple of and so like when we played
high school, I think '88.
Right, we played.
Before Beck and Dwight from Fairleigh.
It was kind of like a thing of like, you should be at Memphis. Because we had Ernest Smith from Memphis.
We
had Billy Smith from Memphis. We had Penny from Memphis, Anthony Douglas. So it's like, we used to play versus these guys in high school, so we don't care about y'all. It was kind of like a rivalry.
Big time.
You know what I'm saying? So we're not seeing that competition necessarily all the time, and they're not preparing for us all the time. But it's like, that dude that stay around the corner from you, oh, you going to whoop him. You know what I'm saying? But then, like, maybe somebody from the other side of town, and that's all I was saying. Like, we play Arkansas. Oh, we gonna punch them in the mouth because it's like, y'all got to see us because y'all should really be over here with us.
Those were some battles.
Those rivalries were crazy. Now, getting back to what Penny is now, like, to me personally, I think his clock, for me at least, started over this year, because now I think Penny actually knows what he wants in recruit. He knows the stuff with the 5-star, getting all these 5-star kids, you know what I'm saying, necessarily. That's not, I can do it, but that's not necessarily the best way for me to, you know what I'm saying, engineer this team. So now, what we see now with Kendrick Davis and a lot of, and DeAndre coming on real strong at the later season, but he sees that he needs to get more quote-unquote role players and get yourself 1 or 2 great players and kind of let them feed off that. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. So I think
roster construction. That's
so
he's grown in terms of what he wants, figuring it out.
Right. And so I think I don't blame him. He could have got all those kids, but it's hard to manage those personalities and egos, and you know what I'm saying? Because we see Amani Bates, he killing over there at Eastern Michigan, but they losing. They like won 3 or 4 games.
Exactly. Yeah, but he's going to be a top 20 pick.
No, he ain't.
You don't think so?
No.
You'd be lucky if he goes second round.
Yeah, he ain't. No, he ain't. They ain't. I don't think they're going to get him like that. But
I mean, everybody's not. Like, we know a lot of NBA guys that have good numbers that don't necessarily boost a team up. Mm-hmm. So when I'm looking at it like these scouts, because they're all big on potential, so it's like he's got that kind of Brandon Ingram-esque type of.
He's got a professional shot. The problem for him is when he was at Memphis and they had that pro day, his athletic numbers got exposed. The guy's got a less than 30-inch vertical, so he doesn't have like the NBA quick twitch athleticism that makes those scouts froth too. And if you're not, if your body's weak, You don't have the NBA athleticism, like the number, and he's got short arms. Apparently,
Right,
the
compared to
wingspan was crazy
like
short
6'6"
for his
or
size,
6'7",
6'6", 6'7".
Yeah.
It's like, to your point, they always want to draft on potential, which is based on numbers, wingspan, and athleticism. He doesn't bring that to the table. I hope in this year, like that goes to the question about how much can you add when it comes to athleticism, length, and all that. How much can you get faster, more explosive? Really, man, that's what most of those kids already that took that combine, them freshmen, man, they were jumping out of the gym that year. And this dude, he almost got exposed some numbers that folks were like, what? And so those numbers got to the scouts. You hope he's rebuilt some of that back. Like, I root for Imani. I saw a kid that wasn't a problem. Like, you could tell the stuff with the dad making some decisions about putting a school around him, putting a team around him, how much did that develop him or whatever. But the kid was always rooting, looked like a good teammate or whatever. Right. So I root for him. I hope he's earned some of it back. But you're talking about somebody that was they had pegged as a lottery kid who's now going to be lucky if he's a second rounder. It's a crazy story.
His stock is like literally like going down. But he's, like I said, I hope he does well because he has the size and stuff like that. He could potentially be a two guard, like a shooting guard in the league just because of his skills and, you know what I'm saying, shifting this a little bit.
I just think, but like, you remember Mike Mamula? Played for the Philadelphia Eagles?
No.
So, Mike Mamula, and I know, he was a combine guy.
Right.
So, like, you run all the tests, and he learned how to pass the tests. So, it's like, when they saw him do so many reps on the bench press, and his 40 time, and his vertical, but then, like, you put him out on the field, and it's like, like, Jerry Rice had a horrible 40 time.
It's a ball player.
You know what I'm saying? But when the lights was on, as Coach Anderson, you said when the popcorn was popping.
That might be Imani.
Right. And that's all I'm saying. So to me,
I can see somebody taking a flyer second round.
And that's all I'm saying. Like, from what I've seen, because I like I told you, we talked about, I saw flashes at Memphis.
He got a chance to be an instant offense.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like,
some flashes.
He can't guard anybody. You know, without the athleticism. But he's got a chance to be, Malik Monk can't guard nobody. But you see him now, he just scored 40-something off the bench for Sacramento. Yeah. And it took him a long time to figure out what he was going to be in the league. Because he wasn't getting opportunities. Then he had the issue with the drugs or whatever. But he settled into a role. But, man, he's still slight of build now, 5, 6, 7 years in the league. Malik, though, I will say, crazy athleticism.
No, his hops was like,
but he don't hold nobody.
Or something like that.
Yeah. His hops are crazy. But he's slight of build. Hopefully, Imani, he could make a way as the offense guy off the bench or something, maybe.
Now, one person I hope Penny get next year, we ain't going to say in the transfer.
Man,
Matthew Morrell.
I'm so glad you went. I saw your post about this.
Morrell.
I said the same thing on the radio.
Bro,
I saw your post about it. I think I put a like on it, bro.
He's a junior.
That would be perfect.
Because he, to me.
Now, he came into the season mocked as a second rounder. I haven't looked to see, mocked as a second rounder coming into the year. Now, he's had injury issues. They've been terrible.
Very terrible.
So the question becomes, do you go automatically now if you're second? It used to be if you didn't go unless you were a first rounder. Now it's changed a little bit.
Man,
some of these folks
get a two-way deal.
Two-way.
You
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the question, but here's the thing. Back to your point, the 2024 draft is weak. Man, it's awful. They got Bronny pegged as 10.
Oh, Lord.
Like, what's up there is a mess. So could you convince Matthew Morrell, man, come play for Penny, improve your stock, forget second round, you're going to be a bona fide first rounder in a bad draft. Man, come on here and play with Mikey Williams.
And let Mikey Williams, his social media, his presence.
100%. And give us the experience next to Mikey that we need. Because here's the thing, like you said earlier, Penny, he can't just throw freshmen out there. Throw 4 or 5-star freshmen out there, they don't work. You've got to have some experience in the middle. And Matthew would bring that, but you'd have to convince him from an NBA standpoint that he can improve his stock. Penny does that for dudes. Like Penny working in the offseason when Quentin Grimes helped get Grimes improved his position.
He did.
Helped playing the point guard stuff now. Grimes playing for the Knicks.
He getting some clock. He getting some clock. Yeah.
So I got one. So who?
Not to mention the own guys he's helped.
Yeah.
Because I saw some of the potential trades during the trade deadline that Memphis could have made. They tried to get Bridges, and they
that would have been A1,
right? And I actually thought that would have been a good one. And then they tried to get OG Anunoby from Toronto. But Toronto, they was like the asking price because they was like they offered 3
player.
I was like, okay, that was a good. But it was like they wanted 3 and a good. Man,
if Zaire had been,
but they said
I wish Zaire had been,
but they probably wouldn't.
Maybe they probably would not have. But I wish he'd been better than he was.
Who is somebody you think that could have? Memphis could have gotten or potentially in the future get that would like send them over the top, because I feel like in watching them play, I feel like I don't necessarily feel like we need to lose anybody, but I feel like maybe it's a veteran or a specific type of player. I feel like we're one player away.
Oh, I think you're right. I think we've learned that this year. And I think we've learned, too, at least from where I'm standing, that it's not Dylan Brooks as far as I'm concerned. Now, I know that goes back and forth with a lot of folks. But what's clear to me is this. Dylan Brooks, from an offensive standpoint, pecking order, we know 1, 2, 3. You got Ja, Jaren Bain. You can flip Jaren Bain any way you want to, but that is 1, 2, 3. What you need from Dylan is to be in a fourth-man role in terms of pecking order. Right. And what he is struggling with is being efficient with fewer shots. Right, you want him now on 7 to 10 shots, 7 to 9 shots as that fourth guy. But what you've seen is now that he's not getting 15, 16, 17 shots, like he was getting and doing well with, to his credit, 2 years ago when they went to playoffs with Utah, he was their second best player. He was averaging 25. He was playing good D, even though Donovan was doing it. He was still D'ing up, giving you 25 at the same time.
I think he was shooting like 50% from the field or something too.
Bro, I thought at that point, I said, you got two dudes right there that's the future. Like, we were convinced
that's what it looked
of
like.
that. That's what it looked like.
That's exactly what it looked
before
like.
really Bane walks in the door and becomes who he is.
Yeah.
But back to the point. Now, you know what Bane is. You're keeping him where he is. And so, Dylan, if it's not going to work in that fourth spot, if you can't be efficient on what we know what you bring to the table defensively. Right. But here's the other thing. You ain't the key. Right. The key is Jaren. As much as I love Dylan, as much as he'll go guard LeBron and the other team's best player, the key, we had him when Jaren was out for the first 14 games of the season. Defense was as bad as any team in the league. It was really 30th at one point. Yep. Like, Dylan brings a DNA and an energy that I think you still need a crazy guy, but I'm not sure it's him because of what's happening right now at the offensive end. So who is it? Bro, those guys you named, the ones they went after, those are the ones they need, I think, to get over the top. Whether it's OG or Mikal Bridges, I don't even know if the Nets will come off Mikal because they don't have anybody they can point to now and say, here's a guy that's a star for us for sure in the future. Because I think Mikal Bridges is going to be an all-star. Yeah. Dude, if you got him in that third or fourth role, I mean, look, he had 40-something the other night.
Because you can move Bane to the 2.
100%.
And then have him play the 3.
Bro, it's perfect. But a guy like that is what they need that can be more efficient when he's in a fourth pecking order, third, whatever, on a night that Jaren's bad. You need that guy that you can depend on every night offensively.
And be a lockdown defender, too.
Dylan's not doing that. And then you're at this crossroads where you got to figure out whether or not to pay him. I just think it's better served.
I don't think you pay him.
Like, you're going to bring Dylan off the bench behind one of those guys, OG or Bridges? I don't see that either.
But what I would say is I feel like if we had a guy like maybe OG or Mikal Bridges, you could bring Dylan off the bench and have him. Now, you may not get – you're getting your, I would say, maybe 7 to 9 shots.
Yeah.
But you're getting them where, okay, you're getting them. And so now he can play with that flow of, I'm coming in here to attack and lock down. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But now.
But you're also going to have Bane with that second unit sometimes. Right, you're going to have Tyus Jones. You hope that Luke Kennard is hitting those shots more efficiently now on that second unit. He hit him last night. He hit 12 points, I think, hit the threes. Yeah. Like, that's what you want. Whereas I'm with you. If you gave Dylan a ton of shots on the second unit, sure, I could see it working. But with the way they're built, when they're fully healthy, he would be in a situation where he's on there with guys who could be more efficient. And Lord knows, right now, like Zaire, at one time I thought they hoped maybe he was a replacement for him. Doesn't look like, at least right now, you can't bank on nothing with him. And so, I don't know, from that standpoint, I just think to get over the top, you're going to have to make a move this offseason, try again at an OG. I don't think they're done with those two. They made it clear that that's the type of player they want. Yeah. And it fits perfectly right into that role where Dylan is because both of them can be 3-and-D type guys and give you a little more. I mean, OG's leading the league in steals. Yeah. Like, he's not the technical foul, get up in your face, kind of get in your skin, but he's more of a quiet reserve, efficient defensively, but way more efficient offensively, like career 37, 38% from 3. Like, and if he takes 9 shots, there's a good chance it's not going to be nearly as efficient as it's been with Dylan. So I think we've learned that when we've needed Dylan to take less of a share of the pie this year, he's just struggling a little bit because he sees himself as Kobe.
Yeah, he do.
Like, Dylan can't. He got that confidence. Shots, it's tough for him. Yeah. To ask him to be there because he's never seen himself.
And OG got the Memphis ties too. A lot of people ain't mentioned that. He played AAU with Team Thad. Back with Thaddeus and them.
Yeah.
Dude, he'd be so comfortable because he got Hurd here. Yeah. Hurd was at the draft selection thing with him.
Hurd cool, man. I had a couple of interactions with him. Actually, we was Matthew Morrell in high school. And it was a couple in the coach. What's the coach now with Penny? The coach used to coach at Whitehaven. Dang, I can't think of his name now.
Faraji.
Yeah. When it was in that game, yeah. And but yeah, I just think Dylan, man. I think Dylan need to get around that 45, 46% field goal range.
Be nice.
Cause I think he like 39 now.
Yeah, it's like career low. It's below. He's never been below 40.
It's like super
I
inefficient.
To your point though, like it is. It reminds me of something Michael Beasley said. He said when he went to Miami, it was like, okay, we need you to be like the third or fourth option, and he was like, "What's that?" Right. He's like, my whole life. He said even when he played with, I believe, like Durant, like coming up, he was like, I was always the guy.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, so like now I know D Wade. He's like, but I'm expecting to come in, and play. And it's like, okay, we need you to be, number 4, maybe number 3. And he's like, I didn't know how to. Yeah. And then dealing with a lot of his, mental issues as well, like that on top of now you're taking that away from me, and a lot of dudes don't know how to go from being, the dude to being a dude. What do you think about Lofton?
I love Kenneth. I wish
when
they were struggling a little bit earlier, and listen, Xavier Tillman was great last night in that win over Denver. But when they were struggling on the boards, like they'd fallen with Steven Adams out so far down the list, had been one of the best rebounding teams in the league with him. But it didn't make any sense to me. Why are you not letting Kenneth get out there and run? That's what he does. He bullies inside. He grabs rebounds. He can step outside. So as much as they've played the other rookies this year that they actually drafted, obviously Kenneth was a two-way. Just seems like to me there's been plenty of opportunity to get him a little more run than this year. Do I have a high expectation, whatever? No, not at this point. Now, I will say this. I didn't have high expectations after seeing Santi that first year either. Then you see Santi now and you're going, man, what can this dude be? Like, did you see how comfortable he was? Euro stepping, like he is getting more and more comfortable. So that's to say that, man, in a year or two, Kenneth Lofton might be ready to be the next, like, Lil Zebo.
Right.
Like, dude, he has so much. It's funny. Omar Sneed was a guy to play here. Omar literally coached this man coming up, and dude got a lot of Omar Sneed's game.
That makes sense.
He coached. They were both just at the game today, I think. Down in Cincinnati.
Really?
Yeah. Omar was getting his M Club retirement today, and then Kenneth Lofton obviously in town now. And so they got to meet up. He coached him in the AAU world. And so, dude, he's already got, man, some real slick, if you know your Tiger basketball, he got some slick Sneed game in him.
He do.
Yeah, to go with some Zebo, man. Because he uses the butt, uses the body, the weight. He's not above the rim, but, man, he got everything.
And he makes shots, you're looking at him like, man, how did he get that off? How did he make that?
Some slick, quick feet. Like some slick cat feet.
He's shifty,
Yeah, so, man, dude is going to be, he's going to stick in this league. Hopefully it's with this organization. I absolutely love it.
He's a good rebounder.
Man, yes. That's why I wanted them to give him some run, because they were struggling without Steven Adams.
Yeah. Now, as we wind down, where do you see Tiger basketball and Grizzlies toward the end of the season? Where do you think the season going to lead to? First with the Tigers.
Tigers, I think they are a definite NCAA tournament team.
Me too.
I hope that they finish out strong. They've got SMU and Houston. The SMU one's a quad 3. You don't want to drop it. Obviously, it's down there. But it's Kendrick Davis going back to SMU where he's comfortable. And it's also Kendrick Davis who's never been to the NCAA tournament. Yeah. So again,
that's right. He ain't
never been. That was one of the huge reasons for coming here to play for Penny was you're going to get me to a tournament, right? You're going to get me ready for the NBA. You're going to get me to a tournament. And I just don't think we've seen him today. They closed out Cincinnati, that UCF game where they were able to finish it out. They've got a veteran enough team that I know they should finish strong enough. I'm not saying they're going to beat Houston and win an AAC conference title. Right. But they're a tournament team that should get in that large berth. Probably no lower than a 10 seed, I would hope. Yeah. You got to think. Last year they were a 9 seed. You don't want to be in the 8-9. Everybody knows, you don't want to be in the 8-9 game because the winner of that goes against the 1. That's what they did last year. Yep. They had to take on Gonzaga in the second round. You don't advance, but very often by having to take on the number 1 seed in the second round. So it's slick better to be a 7 or a 10. Because if you win that, you're not on one's path, and you got a little bit slicker chance of getting through. Right. So it'll be somewhere in there, I feel like, 8, 9, or 10, hopefully a 10. And then, whether they're winning or not at this point, I did start the season saying, well, you don't go out and get Kendrick Davis and bring in one of the top 10 most experienced teams in the country if you're not planning on getting to the second round or beyond. I mean, second round you did that, but really beyond. Yeah. Like Kendrick Davis, the best transfer portal guard, everybody wanted him. You don't bring him in to make a short, deep run. So when the season started, I definitely thought you should at least get to a Sweet 16, something like this that would have the potential to do that. I think with what we've seen, again, Can they do that without an inside presence without DeAndre Williams? I don't know. But what I do know is I think to bottom line it's been a successful season for Penny. I know some people will say you need to be going further, but it's absolutely been a successful season. And JB, I think back to your point, he's learned through 5 years now what I want, what I need as a college basketball coach in this new world with NIL, how much experience I need to go with a couple of star freshmen, the talent, where I need to put them. Because remember, you can have a mix he did last year, but then put Imani at point and throw it all off. And so it's got to be the right mix. I just think you're seeing a guy who's figured it out. And much like Cal, after 5 years of taking the program from it was bad with Johnny Jones and Tick Price where it was after Larry. He had to build it. I think Penny is doing the same thing. So that was a long answer to your question. I think they'll end up in the tournament, maybe get into a second-round game. I don't think they have the shooting to get to a Sweet 16. We'll see. I'll be surprised. If they do, wouldn't be shocked if they make it, but I think it's a second-roundish team. As for the Grizzlies, last night, I realized they are a different team at home than they are on the road. Like, there's a huge – I think 11-18, 11-19 on the road. Was it 27-5 lost track now, 27-5, 28-5 at home? Like, it's two different teams. A lot of that is the cliche, and it's true. Role players play better. You saw Kennard hit shots like that. But the way they dominated Denver, man, especially defensively. Like, Denver had never been down that many in a game this season. And you own them. Jokic only had 3 assists. Like, that's a guy who's averaging triple-double right now. And so you saw, again, that when they're clicking, and this time even without Steven Adams, like maybe they can mess around and be a contender this year. But I'm not putting that expectation on them.
For sure.
Came into the year saying, get past the first round again, learn this year, because he was going into a free agent year, whether or not you need Dylan Brooks. Do you have enough? And I think what the Grizzlies have learned is they don't quite have enough. And so if in that time you can still advance to a second round, maybe get through it and make through West Conference Finals, I think that's, again, success. If they lose the first round, am I going to be utterly shocked and think, oh, man, they need to do something completely different? No, because they might mess around and get Golden State in the first round. That said, you're talking about a team that's got a nucleus of guys that are 23 and 24 years old. No NBA team has with stars 23 and 24 as the centerpieces has ever been ready to win a finals. It's all a part of the process. Like, that thing is headed in the right direction, and namely because you got Ja Morant. And that, man, a dude that might be perennial defensive player of the year material. He's going to win it this year.
I think he is, too.
Like, that's 3 All-Stars. Bane was on his way to being an All-Star before he got hurt.
Yeah, he would have been.
Like, with that trio right there, and as young as they are, bro, I don't have any doubt. It won't be this year, but they're going to win a championship in the next 4 to 5 years. I don't have any doubt about it.
Right. I think so, too. I think that I think we should get definitely to the semifinals of the playoff, which is the second round. Depending on who we get, I think we keep the second seed. I think we keep
that's happening.
I think we keep the number 2 seed. We end up playing, may end up playing the Lakers.
It could be the Lakers.
Unfortunately,
I think they got to
the
go
way they looking
crazy.
now.
They'll be lucky if they make it to 9-10, but it could be if they stay crazy. I like their team better now. I do not want to see them in the playoffs.
Huh? Is Russell still hurt?
We talking Westbrook?
No, Russell.
D'Angelo.
Oh, D'Angelo.
I don't know if he's still hurt.
Yeah, no, I know he.
He got hurt the other day.
He sprained his ankle in the game, and I know he was a big.
Was playing well.
Yeah.
Beasley hit a bunch of threes.
And Anthony Davis got a.
That's the key to them.
Not even.
It's definitely him.
Sticker in his car.
Data Davis, as our friend Tristan Cook called him. He called him Data Davis.
Data Davis. Yep. What Chuck called him? Street clothes.
Yeah.
Street clothes. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, Jason, bro, we appreciate your time.
This was a pleasure.
So, do you see yourself having us? Come on, 92.9. Talk sports.
Y'all need to come on.
Shameless self-promotion.
We can have you both on at the same time, and y'all come in the studio. What y'all been doing this 4 or 5 years?
This is season 3. Yeah, this is season 3.
Doing the season 3.
Yep.
How many episodes are in a season?
We do
Has it switched up? When do y'all switch seasons?
We got a time frame when we stop the season. Yeah. So how many episodes?
We start around the end of September, beginning of October, and we go all the way to right before, or
July.
Maybe the couple of days after July 4th.
So an NBA.
So from July, so basically from July to October again, we're breaking.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, it's but anything, man, that you'd like to promote or say or do anything like that. I know you got something with the guy saying your podcast too, right?
Yeah, Grind Season Podcast. We're doing that under the Odyssey umbrella, same as 92.9's and the Odyssey station, but they've giving us an opportunity to have a podcast. We're doing it twice a week, Grind Season. Just search for Grind and then SZN on Season. Yeah, twice per week. You can get it on the free Odyssey app, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Doing it twice a week with my man Sane is it's my little way of keeping a real talent. I believe a real talent.
Oh yeah, Sane for
Anthony
real.
Sane, man, out
Sane
on these
for real.
airwaves. You know, he had a show on 56
Yeah.
With Peter Edmiston. But before they were let go, I just think he's a great talent on Grizzlies, and any chance I get to work with him, dude, at this point, I'm grateful to be in this opportunity and get more voices like him, you know, on the air. We do a weekly segment with him on Fridays.
I do.
At 11:30.
Yeah.
I have him on regularly from 11:30 to noon. He was on there saying Jokic shouldn't get no third MVP the other day because of
he gonna get that, John Doe.
Man, yes.
I
I ain't gonna lie to you, and I was yelling and saying to death. Like, I think he's earned it this year. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. They're running away with the West. That's the other part about it. Like, Embiid's been just as good for the Philly, but they're not running away with the conference the way Denver is. So, anyway, yeah, man. I appreciate you letting me get that little shout-out for Grind Season. And then, obviously, hopefully you listen to Jason and John Monday through Friday, 11 to 2.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been nothing but a blessing. I appreciate you guys having me. Real talk. This has been fun, man. I was telling my wife, man. I was
The
like,
pleasure
man,
is all ours.
know if it's gonna be, if they're gonna put me on the couch, man, ask me about being mixed, man, ask me what, man.
Well, we made it comfortable. You know, just we tell pretty
No,
much.
I actually like getting into that, man. I actually told her, I hope they do. When you told me, hey, we'll talk sports, but then a little bit, we want to know about you as a husband and father. That's when I actually told. I said, man, this is gonna be good.
Right.
And that's kind of what. Long story short, I found that radio is great about, is that they brought me over as the Tigers beat writer, but it's given me a chance, and really, like I thank God for it. Glory to God. It's given me a chance to, man, talk about anything, man. Memphis, talk about stopping Black and Miles, bro. Man, I cannot lie to y'all. I cannot tell y'all, bro. I'm not.
I know it's a good thing.
After 3 years,
If y'all got bad habits, don't. If you ain't started, don't start.
But bro, to have people come up to you and say, "Look, listen, did you quit Black and Miles, man? I hope you're off, because I quit 2 months ago. This other dude told me he quit a year ago. Wow. Saw me in the store buying one, recognized me by my voice, said, man, what you doing? And so listen, like small change like that. Forget the sports and talk. Love talking Penny and Tigers and Grizzlies, but like they've given me a platform to talk about life in Memphis growing up here, and if small change like that, me talking about my faith and how I've come, had a strong relationship with God as I've got older, thank God, like folks, saying that's in any kind of way inspired them, like what? Like that's a blessing. And so, yeah, man, long story short, bro, I feel like one of the luckiest guys in town. No question about it. And even more so, man, y'all didn't let me come on here and blast.
Hey, man, we appreciate you, bro.
Hopefully we can get you back on again.
Yeah, well, y'all come my way.
Hey, over there too. Definitely.
Yeah.
We ready, dog. We ready,
All
y'all.
right.
But till next time, y'all continue with that executive mindset.
Most definitely keep it presidential.
Salute.
Arrivederci. Bow.